Hello, guys. Welcome to another episode of the Commerce Lab by Ecomcy, the place for everything related to Amazon, FBA, private label, and e-commerce. My name is Vincenzo Toscano, founder and CEO of Ecomcy, and today we bring you Reggie Young, who is an Amazon seller and actually a consultant as well when it comes to helping brands exit. And that's why I wanted to bring Reggie today because the topic around exiting your Amazon brand has been a hot topic for a while now, especially last couple of years with everything that was happening with aggregators in the space. And I wanted to bring Reggie today to get some of his, brains in terms of the tips, strategies, things that he's seeing in the space, and just provide as much value as possible to help you, get ready for that stage in terms of your Amazon business. So, Reggie, it's a pleasure to have you here today. How you doing, my friend?
Doing really well. Thank you for having me. Very excited to be on.
Thank you, man. Thank you for being here. I think it was very interesting when we had the conversation last week around everything that you do, and basically, learn about your exit in the past and how you were also an Amazon seller and now consulting and everything. And I think I actually want to use that as a starting point for today episode. I think for all my guests, I do this. We like to learn around their background, how they got started into e-commerce, and how that made them reach where they are right now, so people can learn about that and get inspired. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, sure. So, I've been doing e-commerce since 2015. I had a 9 to 5 job. I was a military officer, basically trying to escape my military contract eventually and have personal freedom and do the whole online thing inspired by uh, a bunch of entrepreneurial books.
Mm-hmm.
So I got into e-commerce in 2015 and I started off high ticket drop shipping. My first store did $64,000 in sales in the first 2 months. I eventually was hit with a good amount of scams. So I decided to pivot over to private label at that time. I eat, slept, and breathed Amazon. I haven't stopped basically since
Yeah.
2016 and on. I was launched a bunch of products, had a bunch of failure, learned a ton of things along the way. Probably spent 60 to 70K worth of education on Amazon and e-commerce training, masterminds. I absorbed everything I possibly could over the course of a few years. Had some products do really well, had some products do really bad, lost a lot of money, made back a lot of money. The product that I ended up selling was a $3,000 investment that eventually netted me close to $900,000 when everything was all said and done. That $3,000 investment, I didn't think it was going to do that well, but my process, like I had like a whole spreadsheet, I had a bunch of like different things I was doing. Launched it, sold that $3,000 investment for $638,000.
Awesome.
I had $100,000 worth of inventory that was turned over, so that $100,000 came back to me. So that's 738, and then the difference between 738 and 900 was the profit I made over that 1 year period that I had that product investment. So that $3,000 investment legitimately covered all my losses, all the education, and then since then I decided to. I got hired out by a couple of aggregators. So I did a little bit of work for them, managing some of their brands. And then I decided that it wasn't a great fit for me in terms of culture. I really value personal freedom in the things that I work on and how I work on them, which is what I love about e-commerce and running your own business. And we can do that from anywhere. So I decided to take some time off, really reflect on who I am, what I've been doing. And over the course of, I guess, 9 months or so, outside of helping other businesses, I've decided to create what I call the Vault, and that's a course library to help other Amazon sellers. And I provide resources, training, and all that stuff for very low cost. And yeah, so that's basically what I do, and I help other people basically what I call start, scale, and sell their online business.
Awesome.
So yeah, a little bit about
That's
me.
good. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. I like the fact that you share as well how on top of the wins there were also some losses, and that at the end of the day will allow you to get where you are, because I think that's important to mention, because sometimes when people see this episode they think that we have never made mistakes, and even myself as well. I also lost money when launching products and so on. It's part of the grind, it's part of the process. But I think as long as you understand that it's a numbers game, and as long as you keep trying and keep improving day after day on top of everything that you've been doing, it's a matter of time before you hit that gold mine, as they call it, right?
Yes,
So,
1000%. Yeah. One thing I
yeah.
always say is like I know at least 3 or 4 people that would have been millionaires if they never gave up, and they would have hit that success before I did, because I see people do things right in Amazon, they legitimately do every step right.
Yeah,
There's
they
so
do
much
everything
information out
perfect.
there. Yeah, and it's
Yeah.
just like, and then that opportunity didn't work out, right? And they just take it so personally. They take that financial loss so personally, and it
The thing
hurts.
is,
Don't get me wrong.
the thing that is them that they're not capable, and they just don't understand that sometimes it just doesn't happen. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. And the like example I like to use is who hits a home run, or who scores against the goalie for the very first time they step on a professional playing field. Close to no one, right? But if you're doing everything right, it's just a matter of time, and it's a matter of not giving up, and you'll get there. So
Awesome. That's good. Yeah, it's a good message to get out there. Now, let's get started bringing to the table the topic, which is basically, getting Amazon brands ready for exit. I know you do a lot of consulting around this space. And I know a lot of people that watch this show is also at that stage that they might be thinking, you know what, I already reached certain level in terms of already like high six figures or beginning seven figures. I really don't want to put more overhead on me. I just want to exit it and maybe start another brand from zero.
yes,
And they are at that stage that they really want to understand what they need to make sure to have in hand to really make their brand as ready as possible in terms to get it sold, right? So
right.
maybe you can give us some insights around that. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, there's a lot of information out there, online, and people have written a few books on the topic. And I would say the biggest piece of advice I could say is be ready to exit, be ready to sell your business, kind of like from day one. If you're building good organizational structure, um, and you're documenting everything and keeping everything nice and organized, it makes it very, very easy to sell your business because you're ready to sell it at any moment. And then you're also educating yourself
Awesome.
on what is good practices for what people wanna acquire. Now, what does that look like kind of in practice? That looks like every single time you pay for your supplier's inventory, or you're shipping something over, go and download that, put that in a nice folder that says order one, drop the invoice in, have everything nice and organized. If you're doing that every single time, over time, and you try and get a little bit better. When I was selling businesses, or I'm building businesses, the first product I launched, I was all over the place, literally all over the place. Stuff was in my email, it was on my desktop,
Yeah. On a
like
WhatsApp or on a
WhatsApp
WeChat.
chat,
Yeah.
exactly, everywhere. And then I failed at the product, and then I would go and start the next product, and I felt like I was just grabbing things from all over again. And so what I tried to do is build on an archetype, like a structure, like a Google Drive structure. So the
Copy
next
paste.
time, copy
Template,
paste,
basically.
exactly. So you're moving faster, everything's cleaner, and over time, things get really nice and organized. So from an operational standpoint, you want to be organized, because then it makes it super easy to tell your story, to share your links with potential buyers. And when they see that, they have so much confidence in picking up your business. Whereas everybody else, legitimately almost everybody else, when it comes to due diligence and making offers, when they ask for, hey, can I get more information about your business, the business owner has to all of a sudden come to a complete grinding halt and throw everything together. And when they do that, they normally have to take hands off the wheel. And then when that happens, profitability can kind of go down. They usually blame it on something else,
and most of the times it's not perfect because you're trying to go back so many years sometimes, and you're gonna miss some invoices, some numbers, some calculations, and it's gonna be a huge headache.
yeah, huge headache. And it's a little bit of a pain in the butt to do this kind of stuff in the moment, but just spend an extra 5 seconds every time to stay a little bit organized, whether it's on your desktop, and then take some time to upload that and stay nice and organized. But that's just a really small tactic when it comes to execution and selling a business. But I would say the biggest thing that I feel like isn't being talked about as it relates to exiting businesses is that your story matters so much. Of course, having profit in your business matters, and that the higher profit you can make over time.
Yeah.
And if it's an increasing slope and it's increasing, then yes, that's going to bake into your valuation. But I've helped so many businesses that either couldn't sell on big brokerages or nobody wanted to work with them. And they come to me and I look at their business and I basically ask myself the question, okay, this is their weakness. This is why people don't want to work with them. How can I turn that into a strength, or how can I at least mitigate that weakness? So for example, a client that I've helped recently, they didn't want to, the top brokers didn't want to work with them because they had 3 accounts. They had multiple brands under those accounts. And then they had 150 SKUs under those accounts. And their top SKU only made $1,200 a month in profit. So $1,000, $200, $1,000 a month in profit for their number one SKU. nobody wanted to work with them. They came to me and I was like, okay, what are their strengths? Well, they're a Hong Kong based seller. They are able to do low MOQs. They can order units at 48 units per order, as low as like super low. They can launch products and test them whenever they want. Their product price is very low. So that's why they have so many SKUs.
Yeah.
They actually have, it's probably the most diversified business I've ever seen. So instead I changed the narrative to, hey, this business is diversified across 17 different categories. It has low MOQ. You can start and scale it at any vertical at any moment, at any time. It also comes with supplier contacts in China, which makes it so like I basically repackage the story and then I help clean them up operationally as well. Basically, like, hey, you got to get organized. You like, let's clean up some of these accounts. You know, what's your strategy on this versus that? Just some basic like operational management, but really focusing on that story and highlighting that story, not just to potential buyers, but to potential brokers, potential aggregators, because selling your business is like selling an Amazon listing, right? You can't just take a photo and then upload one photo, right? You want to get the title right. You want to get the story right. You want to have that emotional impact. And people kind of forget about that when it comes to exiting a business. So getting your story right really, really can make all the difference between selling your business or not. But then also when you're in negotiation, being like, hey, this is what you're buying. Like, yes, you could be buying this, but you're also buying this asset or this list or this opportunity, right? So laying out, if you're super organized, like I talked about, well, now you have the foundation to make a folder called product roadmap. And that can easily be a one Google Doc with a few product traits that you want for your next product. And you could just buy a sample from your existing supplier or somebody else, upload that. And that's like, hey, now we have a product roadmap for the future. This is what we would do. Here are the samples and our quotes. So when you come to the table, to the negotiation table, and people are looking at your business versus somebody else, and they see how organized you are, they see the story, they feel the story, and then they see the future opportunity and that you're already taking action on it. These are the kind of things that really help maximize your valuation or just get more deal flow coming through your listing.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think that's a great way to put it, because at the end of the day, you need to put the best foot forward in terms of how you present the brand to these buyers. Because if you just sell the complexity, as you mentioned, and you say it's 3 accounts and all the nightmare in terms of skills, you're never gonna sell it. But if you put on the other side, which is diversification and so on, it's much easier for them to see the value and how they can scale it in the long term. Which at the same time now opens my mind to this question, which is, when people is looking to realistically start exploring when selling their brand to a potential buyer, at the same time they always ask me this question, which is, when is the right time? Because they might think, is it right time after 1 year? Is it right time after 5 years? And I think sometimes it's difficult because you as a business owner, as the owner of the brand, might think, you know what, maybe I don't want to sell it because in my mind I have other products that I want to launch in the future. I have this strategy in the long term. But at the same time, you might be afraid that if you do those strategies, your profitability can go down. Then in the long term, you can actually get less money for your brand. Yes. So it's a dilemma that, it's difficult sometimes to navigate. So you as a consultant, what usually you advise to the brand owners in terms of identifying that right moment to exit their business?
Yeah, I know. I think it's really hard to time an exit. I would say that I've seen another client I'm helping right now. I had exited and was getting to this process of like, oh, I can actually help other people exit. And we meet other people online, and this person had built a business from nothing up to, I think, a $1.1 million valuation. And I said, hey, if you exit right now, the multiples that people are buying are really high. Apparently, this is the best time to exit an Amazon business. I think you should exit. And they didn't want to exit. And then a bunch of pressure came in from China. So much pressure that their Amazon business basically crumbled. So they had to move off of Shopify. And then a few months ago, they reached out to me and they're like, hey, I'm thinking about just liquidating inventory and moving on. And then I said, hey, well, Amazon's really tough, but you have Shopify, you have this list, you have wholesale. How about repackage your story and then we sell it? So now they're listed on an exchange for 400,000, and I think they will sell. So that timing is definitely different, because I've come across the same thing. My Shopify site, my mentor at the time said, hey, sell this. You can sell for 15 grand, 20 grand, sell it. And then you're going to be able to move faster. And I think, of course, we can never really time it, but at least the trend I'm seeing amongst entrepreneurs and people with Amazon businesses is we think that we can grow it to that next phase of from 1 million to 3 million, or from 200,000 to 800,000 the next year. And those things are possible, but I've just seen so many people kind of lose that opportunity by more selling pressure, whether it's competition in the market or something else happening in their life. I do think that taking chips off the table and selling your business and then using that to reinvest into more products, or, you can sell your business for 800,000, buy a business for 300,000, and use that to create stable revenue while you take chips off the table, put some in the bank.
It's like arbitrage, but with businesses. You buy and sell, buy and sell.
Yeah, which is what I did. When I sold my business, I had a lot of cash, and I was like, well, how do I diversify but still do what I love and still have an income stream? So I invested in other businesses at different levels, which has really helped me. Some worked out, some didn't. So it's really hard to time that macro environment, but you have to time the macro environment. So the macro environment being like the global environment. Like, hey, are we in COVID right now? Do you think a recession is coming in the next year or two? I think we're just gonna be a lot of like.
Yeah. I think I lost you. Let's see. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. I'm here. Yeah. So that influences. Yeah, that influences the multiple that people trade in, and then that will also, so you have the macro environment, and then you also have what's happening in your brand, in your category. Do you see new competition coming in? Is there a new product roadmap? How confident are you on that next product or scaling out? Is it worth that opportunity cost? And then you have to balance your personal life. How do you feel? How would you feel if this income revenue stream went away 6 months from now? Like, how would you feel about that? How do you feel about selling this and then not having anything to work on? What pressures do you have in your own life? So some things just aren't financial decisions. So I think you have to kind of balance all three things for kind of timing your exit. But I do think that most entrepreneurs, once we get to a certain level, there is that opportunity cost of leaving chips on the table and that risk of it kind of falling apart. So
yeah, I think for sure. So many people I have met, they do just that. They're just comfortable getting a business to 7 figures, and they don't really know how to get further than that. They sell it and they start again. They get to 6 figure, they sell it and start again. So it's definitely an ideal business model. That if somebody definitely has a business that can do that, it's something that can be implemented. Now, I want to start touching around the criteria, right?
Sure.
Because we know the whole ecosystem in terms of selling and buying brands in the Amazon space been changing rapidly, especially the last couple of months. And now the last 2 years, it was like you could sell anything that was making sales now, right? With these aggregators in the space, anything that was doing revenue, regardless of the profitability, it was a race to basically get as many brands as possible, because they need to deploy basically cash that they had in hand. But now the reality is different. We have seen multiples going down. They are more strict when it comes to deciding which brands to purchase and which ones to basically skip. And I'd like to hear, maybe you can give us an overview of what is realistically right now at the high level, of course, some of the key points that these buyers are looking for on a brand in 2023.
Yeah, I would say, a lot of people in the e-commerce space, we've heard the explosion of aggregators. But the reality is aggregators aren't looking to buy businesses that haven't done right now. Their bottom criteria for them to even consider looking at your business is about $500,000 in profit over the last 12 years. If you don't have that as a number, no aggregator they're not even going to begin to look at it. You literally, I'm helping a client right now that I know can go from 1 million to 3 million if they just had a little bit of help. Just a little bit of help, and maybe 6 months. But they did their internal checklist, and they're like, hey, I see a roadmap somewhere else. I want to exit right now. I'm okay exiting for 1 million. I'd love to sell that to an aggregator, but they have 450K.
Wow.
They're 50K under, and nobody wants to look at them. And I'm like, if an aggregator just looked at them, they would literally turn this brand to 2 million, I know, in a year. But they don't want to do that because they're focused elsewhere on how that deals. So if you're below that number, you're going to be selling to most likely someone that is not an aggregator. And to be honest, people come to buy different reasons, to buy businesses for different reasons. They could come from private equity, like their own, Wall Street type of job. they literally come from all over the place, and they still buy, and which I think is pretty interesting, because those types of buyers, they're not as savvy. They haven't bought like, 8 Amazon FBA businesses. They're not using all these different data points. So in my opinion, what they're looking for is still a great story. Yeah, I mean, the aggregator is looking for a great story. That's how you hook them.
But
The
they're looking
financials,
for numbers.
yeah, they're looking for numbers. So they're definitely in the weeds with that. But it's that story. So people, whatever, every business has a strength. So for me, the product I sold, I had basically maxed out its revenue, or I felt like I had maxed it out. I sold my business. It had my top ASIN had 16,000 reviews. Nobody could compete with me. I owned the US market. I looked at other search volumes in other markets. They were so small, it was not worth me entering. The only way I could scale it out was with a large audience to basically use this as an upsell and add to cart. So I thought to myself, well, where's the future potential for another buyer? And it comes again right back to the story. So what are they looking for? They're looking for a story. So you ask yourself in your business, what's the benefit of your product? Well, if I maxed out my category, if I can't sell an additional product because of the product type I had, I really couldn't sell another product with it, with the kind of product that it was. So I thought to myself, well, what's interesting is I have really high turnover. My product landed costs are 44 cents a unit. So that means that the person buying this, their risk is very low. On top of that, my ROI, I had a 34% profit margin after PPC, and I had a 250% ROI after PPC. So I had a very efficient, highly efficient product that I was selling, and I was a top seller, and I had 16,000 reviews. So my story was, whoever buys this, thank you. Yeah. My story is, whoever buys this is going to add extreme portfolio stability to any product or any portfolio that they have. Is going to bring a lot of stability and cash efficiency. And that's the story that I told. And people love that, and they picked it up because of that. So not to chime the same bell again, but they really are looking for story. Of course, if you have a pet brand, something in home and kitchen, something that is subscription based, of course, those things help. But another thing that I would really want to talk about is they're looking for transferability. Everybody wants to hear the story of, I built this big business all by myself, maybe with 1 or 2 virtual assistants. I have this weakness exists, but I've mitigated with this SOP or this process. I also have this forward opportunity that is not yet taken advantage of. I started taking the steps, or at least here it's outlined. And on top of that, whoever's buying it, everybody wants like a relaxed, like, yeah, I buy it, it kind of runs itself, or I have 1 VA or 2 VAs that know how to handle each process.
Passive income, very much.
Yeah, passive income. So the closer you can make your story to that, the better. You never want to lie, but you can actually get there. So do you have a virtual assistant? If you don't have one, you can hire one for a few $100s a month, and you can show them everything in your business. You can have SOPs ready. So you want to make sure that you have that transferability down, that documentation, that Google Drive, nice and organized. Start outsourcing things where you can and documenting that. And then when you go to sell your business, you can step away, because there are things that you're going to naturally know about your business that the new owner won't, because you've been doing it for so long. So one thing you do is you can document your strategy, how you select products, the current market condition. But if you have a virtual assistant that understands the operational side and some of your mental strategy, they can be acquired in that new business for a few $100s a month. So I also have courses as well on how to hire people overseas for very cheap and have them manage, a multi-million-dollar business. So you definitely want to have that transferability as well, ready to go for your exit. And if I could, I would say one of the big things I would say when you're looking to exit, there are 3 big players. There are 2 big players in the space. The way I see it, you have the aggregator or the broker, and then you also have like the buyer and seller. Those are like the groups that people think about. Hey, there's an aggregator, there's a broker, and then there's like the buyer seller. What I really want you to realize is that there's a third person there that's available, and that's an exit advisor. So the brokers or the marketplaces, they play the middle. They have to make both the buyer and the seller happy. So that means when you're working with a broker, regardless of who it is, they're going to keep you in their buying pool and their network, because they want to keep you isolated, because they want to be the one that brokers your deal. The aggregator is the one who's buying your business. So they're like another buyer. They're going to try everything they can to depress your valuation, right? So they're going to look at your P&L. They're going to just tear it apart, right? So
Mhm.
they're gonna act like, oh yeah, we're on your side, this and that. But there's all these fine financial engineering things that they can do to make sure that
To,
that
to
their
bring it
risk
down.
is to bring it
Yeah.
down, right? Like, oh, we'll pay you, but it's attached to revenue. But we're a big aggregator, so we're going to really take
Yeah.
care of it. Well, that hasn't been
Yeah.
happening, right? They failed operationally on that. Then you have your brokers. They're really good at what they do, but again, they play the middle. So they're not actually fully incentivized to maximize your valuation because they also don't want to piss off their seller pool and their seller. So they have to play both sides.
It's like
Um,
50-50. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And then so I noticed that going throughout this process, right? I educated myself from beginning to end on all this, and then realized like, hey, there actually isn't anybody in my corner that only cares about me, only cares about maximizing my valuation. So when I sold my business, and then after a while, I'm like helping other people do it, and I'm like, hey, I can actually really help in a big way, and I can create a separate income stream doing this. So I decided, you know what, like I want to be what I call like an exit advisor. And what I do is I'm on your corner from beginning to end. Some brokers, what they do is you have someone who helps you, who takes like your interview questions, and then another person will mediate the interview, and another person may talk taxes, or another person, or they don't even talk Amazon at all. There isn't anybody there from beginning to end on your corner. So I decided, hey, let me be this exit advisor. So I also created a course specifically from that mindset as someone who sold a business, to try and tell people like, hey, realize that whenever you're talking to that one group or that one person, you're still getting marketed to. They're still trying to encapsulate you in their circle and then tell you why you should work with them, kind of like what I'm doing now. But the great thing with an exit advisor is they're literally there because they usually have referral agreements with everyone. So they're kind of agnostic and they don't care who you work with. They're more aligned with how do I maximize this person's valuation from
Yeah,
beginning to end.
because you get win with the referral, not really taking money from the client. So it's different.
Yes, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So I have a free service where I basically, instead of just sending an email and be like, hey, I referred this person, I decided, you know what, let me do something better than that. Let me look at their business as another entrepreneur. And with that, I always find some kind of opportunity. Let me help them, like connect them with my CPA, my legal team, my network. And then I've learned so much over the last 4 years. And then I've helped a lot of other people exit their business as well. There's all these small tricks you can do that literally can make the difference between 50K to 200K in your valuation. So I'm like, hey, I can actually provide a lot of value to people because those secrets are kind of kept behind closed doors, because that's how people take money or depress your valuation or stop you from getting that premium valuation. And I'm starting to learn all those tricks and have that wide network. And I'm like, hey, I can actually help people here.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That's awesome, Reggie. Yeah, so I want to thank you for all the content that you share with us today. I think it's super valuable. I think when it comes to, exiting your Amazon business, there's so much content out there, but at the end of the day, as you mentioned, there's always like a trick behind that. They're trying to, get the best valuation out of you. So I think it's good that here we are having an honest conversation about how you can actually, take the best in terms of steps forward to sell your business. And I know you help with this, so I would like to, ask you if maybe you can share with the audience how people can reach out to you and get in contact with you if they need support with them. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So I have what I mentioned before. It's like that course vault. I literally have like 8 courses specifically on Amazon. Like my product research course alone is 3 hours, and I just deep dive everything, try and put everything I know into these courses. And with that comes coaching, comes software, and ways to contact me, whether through group coaching or private coaching. So that's what I'm calling the vault. If anyone's interested at all, you can go to reggieyoung.com/ecomcy, and you'll go straight to the vault. Right now, the vault is $18 a month, or like
Awesome.
$500 for life. But I will be changing that to a free 20-day trial here very soon. And if for some reason $18 is not enough to get you motivated, at least click the free pop-up, and I will deliver resources to help you with wherever you're at right now, whether it's starting, scaling, or exiting a business.
That's amazing, Reggie. So thank you very much for that. I'm gonna make sure to put that on everything so people can find the link. And I want to thank you once more. I'm looking forward to having future so we can keep talking about these topics. Yeah.
Yes,
Thank you, man.
thank you so much for having me. Really appreciate it.
It's been a
Take
pleasure.
care. Best of luck, everyone.
Yeah.